Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Trailer Park. Yes, I know we said we were talking to ex-Trump supporter this week, but he had asked to reschedule, so we have lots of other bizarre things to talk about, so not to worry there. And our good friend Mike Bohler was free this evening, and he agreed to come and talk to us about some crazy shit. So welcome, Mike.
Hey, everyone.
And Beth, as always, is joining us from Pennsylvania. Good evening, Beth.
Howdy, howdy.
And Morgan sends her regrets, but since she has been screwed over by Cheetolini and can't get her shiny new law license yet, she is working extra hours because she's still not being paid as the lawyer that she is. So fuck you, Trump. So yeah, she had to work tonight. So she sends her regrets, but in a way it kind of works out because I think she was keen to talk to our ex-Trump supporter. So we'll have to save that for next week. He has rescheduled for next week, so we'll do that then. But anyway, oh hey, we got Triss over in the chat. Good to see you there. They said this should be an interesting trip down the rabbit hole. Oh, you better believe it.
Yes, it is.
and Dave, Booleanator. Good to see you. I haven't seen you for a while, dude. Nice to see you there. So, yeah, I did tell the story before about the crazy right-wing nutjob atheist guy I ran into on Facebook a few weeks ago. But he was the first guy that I heard anything about QAnon about. He was bragging about this vast array of people who follow Q or whoever the hell he is. And I'm sorry, when I hear Q, I picture John Delancey in a Starfleet uniform. So that is the only Q that exists in my universe. But anyway.
Well, what makes the whole Q phenomenon bizarro to me is, one, they have no clue if Q is an individual, a group of individuals. They don't know whether this individual or group is just a fucking troll, trolling right-wingers, or if he's being like actually, or she, could be a she, is serious.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't track Q or QAnon, whatever you want to call it, like I do some of the other nut jobs, just because there's so much.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I mean, you're talking like, if you were to take a straight up, we'll say, definition, for lack of a better word, basically what Q does is advances a fantastic web, really, of deceit that goes into Trumpism, deep state fear mongering, evil satanic pedophile rings.
Let's start from the basics. Mike, how would you describe kind of what Q or QAnon is, like, on a basic level from a dummy like me? Because right-wing nutjob guy, he's like, oh, QAnon, blah blah blah, and sent me some links, and I opened the links and I'm like, I have no idea what this shit means. Like, it made no sense to me. So what would be your basic definition, Mike?
Okay. You've actually hit on many of the topics that is QAnon. It's unclear who, if it's an individual or a group of individuals, but it does appear to be a group of individuals because of nuances in the Q posts. These are the
so they're posts of some. Where do these posts appear generally?
It started on 4chan. Anonymous posts, and these were anonymous posts. It may have started. I couldn't find where to begin looking through 4chan. I tried. It's again, because because you've already experienced, the confusion of what
Yeah.
this whole thing
Well, and as
is.
Beth said, there's a vast quantities of material to sift through, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But trying to find like original messages, trying to find like source, but the source of these messages, that's I haven't been able to do that, so I can't really confirm that if it is an individual that eventually, it built up as friends or compatriots joined in and created their own set of QAnon posts. But these early posts were really cryptic. They they're actually, I don't know if I don't know if I would call it like a haiku, but it would be like just individual single sentences that would have no meaning. They were like meaningless sentences. And then because then you have the second tier, I'll call them the second tier of QAnon believers who have, because they're enlightened or whatever, that they're
Okay, if the buddy dude that I met was enlightened, we're all in trouble. Let me tell you.
that's probably a typical of the enlightened QAnon believer that has been able to decode these messages. And of course, then they will again, like they will eventually, because when you decode it, then you get the message, Hillary is running a pedophile ring out of Ping, or Donald Trump is, because really you'll hear all these, and it's the right, who is, or at least the radical right. I think that's probably, but they believe that Trump is the savior. He's going to save the country. He's going to do all this wonderful stuff. He's going to build his wall. He's going to kick out the immigrants. He's going to shut down the pedophile rings that the Democrats are running. All these good things.
Yeah.
And
have they figured out who's going to mow their lawns if they get rid of all the immigrants?
Probably not. Then they'll start complaining that there's not enough immigrants to mow the lawns, So.
Exactly. Where are all these people that took the crappy jobs that we didn't want? But anyway, that's a whole other show.
Right. But so the second tiers really created the story. You got this, because again, there's no real way of telling what the originals were. I mean, it could have been Russian bots. It could have been it could be just a couple of guys who have started posting messages, because there was. Let me see if I can find that article. Because there was a guy, two people claiming to be QAnon.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find
one of the things I discovered, with looking into Q a little bit when it first started, was that it started in October of 2017. So it didn't start right with Trump when he declared for the presidency.
Right.
It was after he took. Yeah, it came along later. And like Mike says, there's really no clue as to who, what, where these, if it's an individual, a group of individuals. It could be. I never even thought about Russian bots.
Yeah, no, that would make sense. Or for all it could have started off with one jackass, and then people copying what they were doing, and got turned into a bunch of people doing all kinds of crazy shit.
Well, what makes it really weird, like Mike was talking about, like the second tier, if you look at a QAnon posting, you literally do have to, quote, decode, and what something we'll go into in a bit later, these messages, and not everyone gets the same meaning from these messages.
Well, yeah. Well, like,
and there's actually groups that'll fight amongst themselves on the QAnon about what this message mean. And when
I believe it.
a good example is Liz Crokin, who I've brought up before. She's a QAnon junkie. And it's like, if you listen to her, quote, interpretations, I mean, she's nowhere near where anybody else is. I mean, she is on the pedophile bullshit, but it's like, because she has the religious bullshit mixed in there.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, like I said before we started, and Mike was sort of describing stuff to me, I'm like, so it's like Nostradamus for right-wing conspiracy nuts.
Yeah.
Which it is, because it's supposed to be some kind of code, possibly, depending on what version you think, but it's supposed to be like some kind of code that everybody gets a different meaning out of, and it can't just be like plain language, because it's super secret, and whoever's writing it might get into trouble if they didn't write it which is exactly like Nostradamus was.
Well, that's the thing. This whole thing with Q is that Q is actually is a real, actual top secret security clearance within the government.
Mike and I were talking about that while you were sorting out your sound issue too.
Yeah. So so that's why people are jumping to the conclusion that it might be Trump himself or somebody high up in his administration.
Well, the problem is that Q clearance is a real clearance in the Department of Energy.
That's what. I couldn't remember which department it was, but yeah.
And it's really only. It looks like it's probably for nuclear secrets, where the Department of Energy works with the military. So these may be people who have nothing to do with anything within the White House, Congress, the Department of Justice, where these stories are coming from. So, I mean, I think this guy whoever created this, I've
got your article here, and quickly, I just want to say hi, Shelly. Good to see you. So just so you know, I'm going to share this, but I have an extension on my browser. It's called Make America Kittens Again. And any photo that is labeled to do with Trump, my browser turns it into a picture of kittens. So that's why you see.
That's a good idea. That's a great idea.
Make America Kittens Again. It works on Chrome if you want to give it a try. It does present an issue if you actually need a picture of Trump or something, but you can toggle it off and on. I just didn't feel like screwing with it right now. But anyway, this was your article, and this is from NBC News. So 3 conspiracy theorists took Q and sparked QAnon. So this is, and so what was your take on this article?
Well, again, I don't think these are necessarily Q themselves, but these were people who latched on to the Q phenomenon and contributed to expanding it. That's really, but they're using the same tactics, the same same messages, the same. But then, just perpetuating, trying to build up this Q to, to gain popularity. So it's really nothing extra to this, but it's okay.
Well, it just says, like it says here, NBC News has found the theory can be traced back to 3 people who sparked some of the first conversation about QAnon, and in doing so attracted followers who they then asked to help fund QAnon, quote, research.
Yeah. So. That's why, I mean, from this article, these are just people who are profiting from the original QAnon.
Okay, so these people have gone the extra step and say like, "Hey, we've created this. Now give us money because we did that."
Pretty much, because when it left 4chan, of course, it would hit Twitter and YouTube
Mhm.
and so on, and and of course, again, the momentum was building, more people were getting into it, more views on YouTube, which means more money in your pocket type of stuff,
Yeah.
and then of course, to keep the the message, to keep the message out there, send me money to so I can keep my website
Oh
open.
yeah, like fucking Alex Jones is like, we're gonna get shut down, man. Send me the money.
Send me money. Yeah.
Well, he was also one of the biggest promoters too of this whole
Oh, I bet. This is right
QAnon.
after
But
his,
he was way late. He was way late. He joined in
Yeah,
way
he came
late.
in late, but I mean, he was still one of the bigger promoters of it. And this is the thing: you got people like Roseanne Barr into it, Kurt
Oh.
Schilling, who was the former World Series pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies, is in on this bull. I mean, people. I'll say normal for lack of better word because none of us are normal. That's the setting on a wash machine. Sorry. I mean, normal people are falling for this, and like you made the allusion to Nostradamus, and back in the day when Nostradamus wrote, and we've made this point before, he had to write cryptically because you wrote against the government back in his day,
Yep.
you're gonna lose your fucking head.
Well, he was actually brought before the Inquisition more than once, and it was only because his biggest patron was Catherine de Medici, the most powerful woman in the world, that he didn't lose his head.
Yeah, I mean, he was writing political commentary, which is something in a satirical and futuristic, for lack of a better word.
I love the fact that he got his quote prophecies from basically getting stoned and staring into a pool of water.
Yeah, scrying.
Scrying, yes. Triss says, I'm a bit short on cash. Maybe I can start a bullshit conspiracy theory going and have some people fund me. There you go, Triss.
That's the thing. And Triss is not that far off. I mean, we all joke about, L. Ron Hubbard with Scientology.
Yeah. How
but
many millions and millions do they have?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. I think some of the conspiracy theories and the prophecies and all this other crap that I read for God knows what reason, I really sit there and think, man, I should do this. It's not that far out.
It sucks having morals sometimes.
It really does.
Yeah, it's like what Shelley says. That's what I immediately thought of was LRH.
Yeah, I mean,
how she used the short form, the Scientology lingo.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I mean, the thing with Q, like I was saying before, I mean, you got deep state bullshit, you got satanic pedophile rings controlled by specifically the Democratic Party. You have the Las Vegas shooting is tied into this. New World Order paranoia is packaged into this. I mean, and then the whole shebang is this storm that President Trump is secretly working with Robert Mueller. To bring it all down, and it's like,
So what do you think the Q people, person or people, whatever, are trying to accomplish? Like, what do you think? This is my biggest thing with any conspiracy theory that somebody brings to me. It's like, okay, let's say I take what you're claiming as totally accurate. What's the end game? What's the point?
Well, I'm going to.
They never have an answer for that.
I think the end game is to promote the Republican Party.
Mm.
Because I've been digging into Roger Stone,
Oh God,
and
more power to you.
I've going back even back to his White House and Nixon White House days, and actually I've been also as well. I've got these side projects I want to try to. I've been working on, hopefully, to bring it out on my show. But I'm also, I was looking into like the Pentagon Papers and all these other, this secrecy and so on. But when I started digging into like Roger Stone and his connections to Watergate and what he had done, because he was responsible for Edwin Muskie backing out of the
Oh, I forgot
election.
all about that.
Yeah, and it was all Roger Stone's work. He had planted
I forgot
fake
he was
stories.
involved in that.
Yeah. So
So for the conspiracy challenged here, who's Roger Stone?
he's a agent provocateur who works for the Republicans or Libertarians. He used to be he was he had worked for the Nixon administration. He was like a lower level guy. He worked under Segretti, I think, who had he had because he was Segretti was creating all these wild stories, the the fake stories that were going out to undermine various candidates, presidential and congressional candidates. Stone was he was kind of a middleman, bagman type thing where he would pay off people to plant stories and stuff like that, basically to make the Democrats look bad and the Republicans look good. I don't think Stone is actually involved with QAnon, but he is busy with he's been working with Trump, and him and Manafort created a company which did that kind of work. So Manafort's as dirty as Stone, and of course he's in trouble now. So I'm waiting for the shoe to drop on Stone, but and then Jerome Corsi is that little cabal right in there.
Yeah.
And so it seems to me that this QAnon is probably either, again, a Russian bot situation, or something like a Roger Stone's operation where they would create these fake stories. They would, since 4chan is all this stuff was coming out anonymous, you have no idea, unless you have access to the IP addresses and so on, and all that cybersecurity stuff. I'm not that savvy with that. And I don't know if anybody's ever really looked at it from that standpoint, but I would almost bet it's either going to point back to the Russians or probably like a Roger Stone, Manafort type of. And again, it's to make the maybe not necessarily to make the Republicans look good, but to make the Democrats look bad. That's why there's this pedophile, because
Right.
I mean, accusing someone as being a pedophile is a pretty. I mean that can destroy your career, even if you're just being accused of that can do a lot of damage to a person, and then trying to prove that you're not a pedophile, that's really tough to do, because now you're already a pariah, you're already in trouble,
Well, a friend of mine back, he was a teacher at one of the local schools where I grew up, and he was accused by 2 students, and basically they were pissed off because he failed them. So they planted false charges, and it's been a good 30 years, and he still he cannot get a teaching job.
Yeah.
Even though he was cleared. So yeah, that kind of accusation, and what's really bizarro about that to me is that, but these people justify the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And so it's really weird. And one of the articles I read a while ago, in general about conspiracy theories was that this is according to Joseph Usinski out of he's a University of Miami professor. He goes, conspiracy thinking is unusual because it offers Republicans an alternative view of the world when they already control nearly the entire government.
Yeah.
I mean, usually with conspiracy thinking, people think of it for those on the losing side. But here it's still occurring.
That's the funny thing about conspiracy theories. I've been, again, another side project I want to try to find out who believes, what do they believe, and why they believe it. And
I have a few articles I'll send you.
Yeah. I've been through studies and polls and so on. And really, I'm yet to find anything definitive that says this person can be this is what makes a person believe in a conspiracy.
Well, a lot of people now are starting to classify those of the conspiratorial mindset as a cult.
I can see that to some degree.
And I'm not talking your everyday Joe Blow on the street like the guy Deb was talking to. I'm talking about your hardcore, where you got people saying, well, I know the code, or, that there's a cult mind thinking there. And
that's that's part of it. But really, because there's really no there's no demographic that could say that you're, because I mean, there's education. I mean, there's,
yeah, they say generally it's the people my age and a little bit older that have a tendency. Well, you would fall in that range too, Mike, because I think you're a little bit older than I am. But we seem to be the ones to fall for this shit. And a lot of the thinking, from what I've read, has been because most of us don't understand the technological aspects of how Facebook works, how Twitter works. We just know how to use it. Like my father's a perfect example. He just turned 90 in February. And I remember about 7 years ago when this was before the last time we stopped talking, he goes, well, what's your email address? And I just kind of looked at him like, what? I'm like, why are you asking me for my email? And he's like, well, I have a computer now. I'm like, holy shit, you're, at the time, 83 years old. And then he, like, about before Mom died, so it'd be about 5-6 years ago, he got a cell phone.
Yeah.
He got one of those fancy smartphone things. I have a stupid phone, as I call it, and I purposely have a stupid phone for a reason. Although I do miss the camera. But my dad has a better phone than I do, and he's fucking 90. Now he's got an iPad instead of a computer. I'm like, well, I don't know how any of that shit works. My nephew, when my mom died, was home and was actually teaching my dad how to use his own phone. But that's the thing. But it's those type of people. He knows about the technology, and I won't say he understands it, but he has he's not a stupid man, But as far as how, stuff like this, like the algorithms and all that crap, he wouldn't have the faintest clue. And though they say those are the type of people that get drawn into these, generally on the right side of the aisle as far as politically. But it, as far as age range, it really goes from about age 45 on up, and then, but the younger generation, they say, don't seem to fall for it. I don't know how true that is, but I mean, I've run
I got to look at that a little closer, but see, up to this point, it seems to be, there is maybe the older crowd, but they're used to, I want to, because really, just having this mass media. I mean, early conspiracies had to rely on published books, maybe
Yes.
radio.
Yeah.
But it's now that radio has expanded into, you know,
Internet radio.
the internet, the YouTube, now Facebook, that you can now deliver a steady stream of insanity to
Yes.
anybody who wants to pay attention
Oh,
to
for
it.
sure.
Well, it's
So-
like Billionaire says in chat, he goes, it's the same psychology as religious fundamentalism. And I think I have an article that goes along in that line of thinking.
Yeah. But really, I mean, so far, it's like there's really no, like I said, there's no demographic. There's no,
Mhm.
you know, I mean, men, women, you know,
Yeah.
the race, sex, you know, whatever, you know, sexual orientation doesn't really play. It seems almost like, you know, a 50-50 chance you might
Yeah.
believe in a conspiracy theory. And actually then actual numbers of people who believe, in some cases, like I think, like I saw this one where they just said, do you know, well, it was it tried to separate some of the conspiracies like Kennedy and some, you know, 9/11 and so on. But it seems like an equal number believes in those conspiracies. So it's like
Yeah, there
almost,
doesn't seem to be a hard demographic, because I've run into other atheists who are 9/11 truthers.
right.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, even more so than who we're thinking of, Deb, that are like diehard. The one guy I know is a fucking mechanical engineer, and it's like, dude,
There was a guy couple of years ago when we went to Ali Rizvi's first book reading right after his book came out. It was a CFI event, and there was a dude there who was like, excuse me. I mean, Ali's book is about, you know, Islam and leaving religion as a Muslim and that kind of stuff. And the guy gets up and he's like, you know, did you write about 9/11 in your book? And Ali's like, well, I mentioned it because it was pertinent as to, you know, one of the reasons why I left Islam, but no.
yeah,
And
I
the
mean,
guy had like the shirt on with, I forget, with some like truther slogan shit. And I mean, this guy, he would have probably been in his 30s, and he was not a white guy. I don't know what his ethnicity was. He was definitely brown, but you know, not that it matters. But he, you know, not your, because conspiracy people tend to be a lot of white folks.
Yeah.
But and yet now Buddy, that I argued with a few weeks ago, he is a white guy, of course, from Batavia, Beth.
oh Jesus!
I know.
My old neck of the, well, that doesn't surprise me coming from Batavia, because they're a bit rural.
Yes, I've been there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
I have. And he's like 7 years younger than me.
it's really bizarre, because you can't really, I mean, you can't say, oh, because this person is XYZ, oh, they're not going to be a conspiracy theorist, or they're not going to fall for, you know, the anti-vax or the woo. You can't say that anymore, because I know atheists that are anti-vax. I know atheists that are anti-science. I know theists who, you know, are theistic evolutionists.
Yeah.
It's like, it's really...
I debated an Ahmadi Muslim on Saturday on Right to Reason with our friend Robert, and yeah, and Aziz, our Muslim friend, he believes in evolution. He just believes that God had a hand in it, but he's totally reconciled with his religion and evolution.
Yeah,
which,
and
you know,
I think
like the Pope and the Catholics are like, oh yeah, evolution's totally a thing. They can do it. So, and yet this guy that I talked to, he's I wouldn't be surprised if he was anti-vax, but he was vehemently anti-abortion.
Yeah. Well, I think what makes Q, at least for me, as I said, I follow it, but I don't track it because it's just so overwhelming. I mean, it really is. I mean, anybody that does track it, Mike, I'm not sure how deep into it you are, but it sounds like you're deeper than I am. And it's just amazing the complexity of it, and that it doesn't seem to be picking and choosing who's following. It's all over the board, and it makes it really hard because you don't know. I mean, I was in just a normal everyday conversation with somebody the other day, probably somebody I work with most likely, and they just spouted this thing that right off the top of my head I wanted to say, that's QAnon bullshit. But it's like, where would this person be getting it? The internet? Because I mean, where I'm at, we don't get. Yeah, we have cable, but I know this person can't afford cable.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just very pervasive.
Oh yeah. So I mean, this guy sent me some links when he started yapping about QAnon, because I was like, Q a what? QAnon, is that like people who are addicted to the letter Q, or Star Trek episodes with Q? They keep watching them constantly, like what? So he sent me some links, and I mean, these are supposedly posts that have been made by Q, whoever the fuck that is. And I'm looking at it, and like half of it makes, well, more than half of it makes absolutely no sense to me. And as you say, some of it is worded very oddly, very cryptically. Like, for instance, this one is dated yesterday, because I guess these sites are constantly updated, and it says, law governing removal of a sitting Congress, bracket M/W bracket /senator ? And I'm like, huh? What does that even mean? Or another one from yesterday says, fake news control over those who do not think for themselves limits exposure of truth. Well, that one makes more sense, but it just, and then there's ones like from, where was it here? A few days ago. Back when Ruth Bader Ginsburg missed a day of work not too long ago. And where is it now? There's so much bullshit in here to scroll through. Oh, here it goes. It goes, Q drops info on Ginsburg's poor health a day before the mainstream media. And then bracket Q proof. So in other words, somebody's written that because QAnon said that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was in poor health a day before some story came out in mainstream media, that's proof that they have insider information, I'm guessing. At least that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, except I think they already knew that she was having some health issues even before that. So
yeah.
Well, yeah. Oh, Beth, here's one for you. This one's headline. This is from the 7th of January. It says, CIA MK Ultra mind control program is still active.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, like this. See, like this guy. That particular. I just got it here. Program dev undergoing under offshore, not domestic. Tangent agency. Covert funding. Animals greater than humans. Humans 1988. 71% average success rate. Targeted mental criteria designated as bracket, empty space, comma, bracket, close bracket. Mental institutions and therapists greater than program specialists. Cocktail regimen 4 times daily brain intercept, bracket, administered by blank. Okay, that looks like a QAnon message. And and there's a way to decode this according to the QAnon followers that you actually don't, you go to the bottom of the message.
Yeah, I'm going to put it up on screen so people can see that. So it's the one, if you're looking on the screen, it's the message in the middle. And let's see, can I make that any bigger?
I think you can click on the up top and you bring it up the individual message. Over.
It's not very big though.
Actually, if you on the blue where it says
the mind control program or the other the hell is that?
Wow. Oh, that's okay, yeah, there it is. Well, that's all right. It's on top, but that's looks like that's the 8chan. Yeah, this looks like a
okay, 8chan. Yes, it took us to 8chan.
Okay, so this is okay.
Now I feel like I need a shower.
Yeah, because but this will be a good one to because apparently the trick to read these things, you got to be enlightened to read these things. Remember that.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay, you're supposed to go to the bottom of the message. And that is the key. That's supposed to be the key. Then you go up 4, or was it? Then you go down, or then you from the top down 4. 1, 2, 3. The hole is deep. 71. Yeah, it's not making any sense. Because supposedly you're supposed to bounce around in this message. You don't read it from top to bottom. That's the wrong way to read these things. Because you're supposed to. But certainly, does
it help if you bang your head on the wall a few times?
Well, if I look at it bouncing around, I get the hole is deep. Then they're referring to a Candlestein Black Ops, which would be the MK Ultra, which had their drug regimen had a 71% success rate. It's like it looks like they're talking.
I getting a kick out of the one below that says lurking bakers. Graveyard has coverage. We just holding it down. I'm good to bake one more bracket 5,921 bracket, comma. Look for handoff next bread. Should only be needed for a bread. Bracket 5,922 bracket. You should get graveyard chiming in. Graveyard should be expected. Bakery number 5,923.
I mean, my philosophy. I mean, this is the same philosophy I have for reading the Bible. If you can't figure it on a plain reading, it don't make no sense.
See, allegedly, you're supposed to be able to pull a name out of this, and I don't see a name in here. So, maybe
and they're checking the MK Ultra post.
Yeah. So,
and then there's other stuff like after the cocktail regimen, 4 times daily brain intercept, blah blah blah. There's a link from hcats.nih.gov, whatever. Brain signals action.
Med, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. It just says WIA military personnel targets of the program ? PTSD plus clandestine black ops greater than 0 affiliation bracket non_stick bracket. Something out of a movie ? Fiction ? The hole is deep.
Well, I know. I mean, okay, MK Ultra.
Yeah,
What
Shelly, I don't know what the fuck that is.
what did she ask?
She just said, "What on earth is that?" I don't fucking know, man.
Well, MK Ultra was a real program, allegedly. Back in the 50s to 70s, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong on my dates and stuff, but it was supposed to be a black ops to program sleeper assassins was one use. They say Ted Kaczynski was involved in the Unabomber, was involved when he was at Stanford, that he was involved in the MK Ultra experiments in San Francisco, or San Francisco, I think, Stanford maybe. It also ties into the Milgram experiment. And then they think that likely Harvey Oswald was MK Ultra victim, for lack of a better word.
And Shelley says they used LSD or cocaine, right?
Yeah, they're and they did it under the guise of treating post-traumatic stress disorder, and also, well, back then known as shell shock, and also for schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Ted Kaczynski comes in. That's where the Unabomber, the Oklahoma City bomber comes into the picture. So anyone that we would call a rogue, like the root that shot up the church, the AME church,
right?
Some of your
Manchurian
Candidate. Thank you, Mike. I was trying to think of the damn word. But yeah, oh no, he was part of MK Ultra. The kid was what, 18 at the time of the shooting when he killed same with the dude that shot up Vegas, the country western concert in Vegas.
Yep.
He was MK Ultra. The people that are programmed that when they hear a keyword, they go and do these heinous crimes, and that's where it's a lot deeper than that, and that wasn't technical at all, but basically it's just people believe that it's a secretive program that's still going on. From what I've read, it was an actual program, but it was shut down, I think, within 3 years of it starting or something. I don't remember the history on it.
It was,
although some say it's still going on.
Well, MK Ultra was part of, like the New Earth Army. There was a lot of. If I understood, I've read from some of the stuff I've read. One of it was the problem that the Americans thought the Russians were actually doing this. And they're this mind control or all this kind of stuff. So the Americans didn't want to lag behind in their this technology, so they started exploring, and of course they were experimenting with acid, LSD. They were using, all sorts of different, sensory deprivation, the telepathic stuff,
telekinesis.
They were all remote viewing. That's kind of why the
we know that's effective, right?
So there was like all this all this stuff, and they were believing that the Russians were actually accomplishing this. Now again, this could have been just Russian propaganda, or again, trolling the Americans and saying.
As some of this stuff looks like somebody just sat down and, like the one after that. Now, I'm just quoting what it says. So, content warning. There's a gay slur here. My apologies, but it just says, "Hey, boss, please, boss, boss is boss. Bose headphones are boss. Boss is boss. Anyone who refers to Q as a boss is a faggot." Like, just like somebody just sat down and started like writing shit.
Well, it almost reminds me of the buffalo, which is actually a grammatically, and I probably said it wrong, correct sentence. That's almost what that sounds like.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the buffalo, but now you have me thinking. Now you have me thinking. Badger, 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 badger. Mushroom, mushroom.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, then you bring in when you read these things, you know, you have the whole notion of neuro-linguistic programming. I mean, how much of it is that crap? I mean, is that, you know, and that's why I never could get into the QAnon stuff, because it was, as far as following it or tracking it just got so bizarre to me, because it's like you come up with, you know, like the post you just read with the boss bullshit.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I have better use of my time.
Yeah. I've never been to 8chan before, and
You're kind of like, I never want to go back.
like I said, I feel like I need a shower now.
Yeah.
Something. Oh man, they even using a picture of Weird Al. That's like blasphemy, man. You can't do that shit. They got. I don't even. Okay, I just took screen sharing off, but I don't understand what this. Maybe you can make heads or tails of this, Mike. But so this one here, it just has like a link, and it's got like the ASCI sort of guy shrugging his shoulders, and I think that's a chicken on the end there. I'm not sure. And it's just a bunch of numbers. And then it's a picture of Weird Al from his the year he had his Bad Hair Day album out. And who's the musician? He did the Gangster's Paradise video.
I can't think of the name.
Any rap aficionados in the audience? Because I can't remember. Coolio. Thank you, Shelley. So it's a picture of Weird Al and Coolio at probably the Grammys or something, and they both have the same hairdo, because of course Weird Al famously did Amish Paradise, which is one of my favorite songs ever. And they're obviously presenting something together, but
party like it's 1699.
Yes. Oh, you know what, Mike? This summer, okay, so my husband and I usually go on like a big motorcycle trip every year. This year, we've decided we're not going on a trip, and we decided to spend money elsewhere. One of the big elsewheres is we are going to go see Weird Al in Toronto in July, and we splurged for the VIP meet and greet tickets. So we're actually going to meet Al, and we get to go to an after party and get photos taken with him and stuff. So we're like really excited about it.
Oh, that's awesome! That is awesome.
Yeah. Because I mean, the man is a satirical genius. Like, he's just amazing. But anyway,
yeah, when I was in high school, would listen to him on Dr. Demento.
Yep.
Okay.
When he was doing the bathroom tapes.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
but I don't understand what any of this is supposed to mean.
Well, it looks like it's a video, so maybe they goobered it up.
Okay. Oh. So it's just them appearing at some awards ceremony. And it's like 1.5 minutes long.
You know, when I was growing up, you could only hear alternative music on small radio stations broadcasting out of someone's garage.
Now millions of people dig it.
That's right, homie.
Yeah.
Which is why the groups up for favorite alternative artist had 3 of last year's biggest selling albums.
Check 'em out. Poor paper.
Okay.
And the winner is Pearl Jam.
Yeah, see, this is a while ago. Okay, so
Unfortunately, Pearl Jam isn't with us tonight. It's Eddie Vedder's macrame class. So Coolio and I will be happy to accept the award on his behalf.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
okay,
What's the purpose of that?
I don't get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Right?
we're not enlightened, Beth. That's the problem. We're not enlightened. And then what do we have down here? We've got a picture of some baseball player hugging a juice box.
Kind of looks like was that Steve Carell?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, that kind of does look like him.
I mean,
Yeah.
the photo underneath, I have no clue. Someone drew over the top.
That's oh, Richard Dawkins, isn't
I was
it?
going to say that it looks like Dawkins.
Okay.
And it's got like cartoon teeth and a nose drawn on him. But there's nothing like written with it. And then the next one says, and the nitwit that says the operation would be done by the first with Q's unmasking on the third. Okay. And that was posted on January 7th. And of course there's a picture of Pepe.
Yeah.
Because, yeah. You can't read stuff posted by assholes without a Pepe.
Well, and that's the funny thing. I was reading today that, that some on what we call the alt-right that support the Pepe dude are not for QAnon. So there's some division in there. It's like, okay.
True.
So and that's the thing. I mean, I could just see me just like I'd be like, what the hell is this talking about? Like, even some of the stuff, Mike, you might have something that like these are some of the allegations that QAnon has made, or people associated with QAnon. That U.S. representative and former Democratic National Committee Chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, sorry, my speaking is really bad tonight, hired El Salvadorian gang MS-13 to murder Seth Rich. That's still going on.
Who's Seth Rich?
Seth Rich was supposedly attached to Hillary Clinton and was going to do tell all or something.
Okay, and another one of these, like murdered by the Clintons.
Yeah, one of those. I don't remember the whole story, but then there's another one, suggestion that German Chancellor Angela Merkel is the granddaughter of Adolf Hitler.
How?
Yeah, or here's another. These are claims that they have made.
Yeah.
Each mass shooting is a false flag attack organized by the cabal. Who the fuck is the cabal? Yeah. Well, that's the NWO world elitist bullshit. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, George Soros, and others are planning a coup.
Soros had to be in there somewhere.
Soros is Soros. I mean, his name came up almost in every article.
It's not a conspiracy without George Soros. Come on.
Well, and I just reported today that Ellen DeGeneres is also part of the.
Yes, I saw that.
Of course, yes.
So, I mean, I tried to comment, because you got to have the political, the financial, and now you got the media involved. So this sounds a lot like a modification of the Jewish conspiracy.
Yes.
because you got to
Because
have all
that's
those.
the other. You got to blame Jews for stuff too, of course, right?
But
Well,
see,
yeah.
that's uncool nowadays. Now you got to turn it. You got to turn it into Democrats.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. I thought it was all of the above.
Well,
At least with some of the people I've talked to recently.
I think, yeah. Again, like when I watch Alex Jones, I mean, he does go out of his way to avoid the Jewish question. He certainly talks like, I mean, if you were to insert, because he'll talk about international bankers, and that's
Oh,
that's the automatic.
that's a euphemism.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it
So he does it without doing it in a way that could get him into trouble.
right. If you call them anchors or you call them, the fake news or whatever.
So he's like the idiot kid that holds his finger like 3 millimeters from his sister's face and like, I'm not touching you.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's the whole idea.
Gotcha.
So,
What a
of course,
see, and here's a good one. So maybe Comey is a Rothschild. It's just
I was just gonna mention the Rothschilds because I have them here. Another reoccurring theme is certain Hollywood stars are pedophiles, and that the Rothschild family are the leaders of a satanic cult.
Of course. So it says it's just odd timing on the night that everybody's discussing the red carpet and they've got the red carpet, which I'm assuming refers to communists, for the Golden Globes, which is definitely a Jewish jab, I would say. D. Genova would like to write an article highlighting the cardinal moniker and that Q would share it. Joe has said before, and Judge Janine too, why they call him Cardinal Comey, just expanding my thinking, Keck. Which, if anybody doesn't know, KEK comes from what was it, World of Warcraft. They have like a faux language in there, and it's the equivalent of LOL. And then next person, anonymous, says, and hence why the push for foreign funding question. And then now this is weird. The next one says, one man is with God, enough said. And then the next person says, time's up, dig him up, Q. They need some light.
I wonder if that's referring to Bush Sr.
Yeah. And then the next person says, whose house is it? Stop being cryptic, which I thought was highly ironic.
Yeah.
And then it says, holy shit, the big stuff. And then the next picture is a naked woman. Which I'm not going to share because that goes against YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm glad I quit scrolling before I shut off the screen sharing.
Yeah.
But then it goes, after the naked woman, it quotes 3 posts and says, your posts in this bread are creepy as fuck. So does bread mean thread? Because there was that other post that was talking about bread, the baker.
Yeah.
Well, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah. Oh.
Ooh, maybe I'm becoming enlightened.
Oh God, help me. I don't know which one, but one of you fuckers better do something.
Oh man, this is like some fucked up shit.
Well, one of the articles I was reading, they were talking about the way that this cryptic speak. That if people like us were to read it, we'd be like shaking our heads, like, "What the hell are we reading?" And a lot of times, yeah, a lot of times they sell, and you find this with those that make these prophecies, like we were talking about last week, and what they're doing is they're self-sealing their quote conspiracy theories, and giving them plausible deniability when none of this shit happens.
Yeah.
I mean, like, their very first prediction, or whatever you want to call it, was Hillary Rodham Clinton extradition already in motion, effective yesterday. I don't remember when this was printed. October 28th, 2017. With several countries in case of cross-border run. Passport approved to be flagged, effective on the 30th of October. Expect massive riots organized in defiance and others fleeing the U.S. to occur. USMs, I'm assuming military, will conduct the operation with NG activated National Guard. Proof check, locate a National Guard member and ask if activated for duty. And this was, posted in October of 2017. And we all know Hillary Clinton is still walking free.
Yeah. Well, okay. I went back because the site, the QMap site, it claims to have every single QAnon post ever. So I went back to the very first page, and the one you were just quoting was there.
Yeah, it's from October 28th, 2017. This is the first one.
The very next one says Hillary Clinton will be arrested between 7:45 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday, the morning on October 30th, 2017. Well, that didn't fucking happen.
Yeah, and that's, their very first post was wrong. And
yeah.
I think why they have become, at least in my opinion, more cryptic is this gives them an out. Oh, no. We read that. We decoded it wrong.
Yeah.
It's given, I mean, but that's not the only one. Like I said, they had the ones about Barack Obama, George Soros, the Rothschilds.
Yep.
I mean, I just picked out a few. I made the mistake of going into 4chan.
Yeah.
I just threw a link, and there's a neat map of QAnon. If you open it up, you'll see this. You'll see this chart.
Yep. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's somebody trying to decode.
Hang on. Let me share this because this has to be seen. I don't know if I can make that any bigger. I make this any bigger. I don't see a way to do that.
They might be able to do it on their end.
Oh wait, there's a menu. Nope, it's a share menu. That's not what I want.
Oh, here we go.
I was trying to click it. And
here's a better.
Oh, okay.
Let me copy. I get you.
Because that's, you need to see that a little closer, because that's pretty, like, my brain hurts just looking at that.
Yeah, actually, yeah, this Mike Rothschild.
You're just getting a little garbly there, by the way, Mike.
Yeah, I think when I open stuff, I might have a.
Did you find it?
I just sent a link.
Oh, okay.
It should be.
I wasn't sure if that was the same one or not. Oh, good God.
This reminds me of my brain when I'm on a manic high.
Okay, folks, like, you're not going to be able to see what's written here just because. Look at this shit. Holy.
Yeah, that's definitely my brain when I'm on a manic high.
Uh-oh, maybe Beth is QAnon.
Uh-oh.
Once you
Maybe
get-
I am. I haven't had any psychotic episodes lately, so yeah. Holy moly!
Or whoever Q is maybe could stand to have some medication.
Well, yeah. Well, and that brings in a whole nother thing. It's like, holy moly!
Like that,
Although-
this is even worse than the first one that we looked at. I can't make it any bigger either, though, unfortunately.
Links
Unless.
will be in the
Oh wait, hang on.
Oh, did you find?
Hang on. I've got.
Oh, of course, the Vril Society, the Thule Society. This is stuff with Hitler. Let's see what else we got.
That's about as good as we're gonna get, I think. Without
Project Blue Book.
Sorry.
Geneva, UN, CIA, Israel.
Oh, and of course you've got Freemasons in there, and Aleister Crowley, of course.
The Vatican and Catholicism, Jesuits, Black Nobility. Boy, this is even small for me to read. Albert Pike. Titanic.
Israel. Of course, Israel.
Yeah. Oh,
the Pentagon.
The Elder of Zion.
I like how they have the Pentagon right next to Nazi Germany.
I always love when they cite the protocols of the Elders of Zion because it's a proven fake. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yep. Oh, look, they've got psyops.
And Satanism.
Oh, of course there's Satanism.
Nimrod, Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. Tower of Babel.
Bill Gates. Of course it's Bill Gates. Like, is there any
Disney's in there too?
Oh, here.
Is there? David Icke.
Because they got Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu.
Oh God.
Sumerians, cuneiform.
Look, Wi-Fi. Even Wi-Fi.
Then there's Satanism, Lucifer, Satan Ball, Tower of Babel. I think that's Nimrod.
Nimrod, Babylon,
Skull and Bones. Of course, they've got Skull and Bones and Princess Diana and John Benet Ramsey.
Oh my
because
God.
I'm sure a 6-year-old had something to do with it.
Yeah.
The Cabal. We don't know what that means exactly, but Russian Federation and Vladimir Putin, of course. Oh, what else have we got?
Okay, yeah, there's the vaccines, Big Pharma, fluoridation, Monsanto, Agenda 21, chemtrails, GMO, climate change, and geoengineering.
Yes, our GMO salt.
We got ancient aliens, the Greys, cattle mutilation, abductions, Draco reptilians. What else we got here? Galactic Federation of Light. Norwegian Spiral Anomaly. But yeah, of course there's reptilians. CERN is in there.
Shiva statue right underneath it.
Telema by Freemasonry and Aleister Crowley, under where the line goes down from the 3. I don't know which one you guys are on.
I'm sort of in the okay, I see what they got here. So anything that's green has to do with extraterrestrials. Anything
I thought it was green M&Ms. M&Ms are extraterrestrial?
Yeah. Yellow is to do with depopulation. MK Ultra is the purple, and if where I am at the bottom here is the Vegas massacre right there. But then there's something called the Harvest Ritual. I don't even know what that is. What else is there? Anything that's orange has to do with 9/11. And I guess I should be clear. Extraterrestrials are dark green. I'm not sure what light green is because the article covers some of the legend, unfortunately. But red, of course, is Nazis.
Depopulation is light green.
Oh, you're right. So yellow is the Trump era. My bad. Yeah. So yeah, the up there, Monsanto and climate change and chemtrails and all that is to do with depopulation and vaccines.
Oh yeah, it's got to get the vaccines in there.
Of course. Of course. War on cancer. Apparently that's a bad thing.
Oh, well, didn't you know we're suppressing the cure?
Oh, yes.
It's not just pot, it's baking soda and lemon.
There's the Raelians.
Oh, jeez.
Shelley was asking what no Planet X, but if we look for green, dark green, okay, the Foo Fighters are aliens.
Well, that may be the that's not the band, it's the I think that was they thought it was spaceships following bombers during the Second World War.
Okay.
There may have been ball lightning. So
Gotcha. I am not seeing Planet X.
What about the pink and the blue up top?
Well, Nibiru is Planet X.
Yeah.
Where's Nibiru? Where did you see it? Oh,
yeah, I thought I saw it in there.
Because
it would have to be.
It would, yeah. I would assume it would be in the green, but maybe I'm wrong. So, yeah, because it doesn't tell us what the black stuff is.
You see the Anunnaki? It should be in there. I believe it was.
Oh, yeah, that's where I was looking before, because there's crop circles, the Greys, the Reptilians, Pleiadians.
Yeah, it should be in there.
I'm not seeing it.
But I was just scrolling down a little bit, and it was going. The title of the article is QAnon map. I mean, this is just QAnon. What they.
Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine being someone? This guy it says he's conspiracy theory researcher and debunker. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, I've done a little bit of this, like, certain subjects. I could not imagine spending the time doing this.
Oh, I know. Like, I'm looking at this, like, in the size of this map, and it's ridiculous. And then, like, trying to follow, like, if you were able to see when I had it up on the screen there's all these little red arrows that go in different directions from different parts, and it's just ridiculously it's somebody just went through and was like, everything is related to everything.
Yeah. Well, he goes on in the article below. He goes, the crux of QAnon is that a vast secret parallel history of the world has unfolded over centuries, with powerful families and religious interests shaping events around them to maximize profit, quell dissent, and increase their power over the witless sheep under them. It involves everyone, has his hooks in everything, and is everywhere. Of course, none of this is new to the world of conspiracy theory. Long before Q came along, there was hysteria over the Illuminati, Freemasons, Jews, lizard people, or Catholics controlling the world run rampant.
Yeah.
Basically, it seems what Q has done, in a sense, is taken it all and crammed it into one umbrella. And he goes on, the beauty of Q is that all of that is true, with eons of mental slavery being thrown off only now by Q followers and the actions of President Trump. And the stakes couldn't be higher, as the site Deep State Mapping Project puts it. I don't know what that site's about, but he quotes them. This is actually a multi-dimensional war between good and evil that spans the galaxy. Our planet is breaking free from an ancient quarantine imposed on it by the Archons hostile to humanity. Oh, good Lord, the Archons. Okay, this is delving into shit that I've dug into in the past because...
So, Triss is asking if the dead Kennedys are on, not the band, the actual dead Kennedys are on the map, and I'm not seeing them. I'm looking
they would
like
have to be.
They would have to be, but maybe I'm looking because I'm looking at because I found Nixon, so I was looking above Nixon, but it would have to be between Nixon and the Nazis. Oh, there's Eisenhower, Bay of Pigs.
Well, it's like this dude said. I mean, it includes everything. I mean, and this is one of the problems I had with my friend who's gone to the deep side of the woo. He would start out with one little thing, and then I'd watch as he would add conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory to his thing, and like I'm seeing it with another, I'll say acquaintance, because I really don't know this person that well, and he's actually really managed to piss me off today because he's just posting this junk, and it's like he knows he has people that follow him, and I mean he's posting some of the most asinine things that, according, him being a scientific minded person, should know better.
Yeah.
But he's so...
I'm looking and I'm finding, like, I'm seeing stuff because there's Bay of Pigs, which is 61. And then you would think that the Kennedys would be right in and around there because there's Vietnam in 63. Chile, but then it jumps to the 70s pretty quickly. There's 67. Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard, 60 or 54. Anton LaVey, 66. Yes, Mike.
Look at this, about the middle. Oh, I see something. Yeah, kind of in the middle, you'll see Vietnam.
Yeah, I saw Vietnam.
JFK assassination 11/22/63. Right below Vietnam.
Oh, you're right. Duh, I was staring right at it.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's JFK, but I don't see RFK.
Yeah, this is really hard to read.
And it says JFK, the date, and then underneath in quotes it says King's Sacrifice. Oh yeah, because there we see Zapruder film. Okay.
Oh, there's the cabal.
Yep, the cabal. It's like, what fucking cabal?
Well, and it's funny because this overlaps a little bit, like going back to the whole Nimrod, Tower Babel. That goes back to my one friend who's an author who I interviewed. He brought the whole thing about Nimrod and Babel, being that was the start of the Illuminati or something. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. I'd have to pull my notes out, which I found the other day. I was cleaning out one of my drawers and I have like 5 or 6 notebooks just filled with notes trying to track this guy's line of thought. I'm like, holy moly.
That's the thing, like there's so much on here, it's hard to, you're looking at stuff and not seeing it because it's in the middle of so much other shit. They got Alex Jones right next to David Icke, of course. And now who's Steve Quayle?
Steve Quayle is a Nephilim giant proponent. And he has, I wouldn't, don't ask. He's also into the prophecy bullshit and really alternative history. but
Okay.
he used to be on a show, well, Prophecy in the News, and there's a new one, not a new one, but a newer one that came out after that. That, I mean, he does a lot of stuff with L.A. Marzulli.
Mm-hmm.
He used to do stuff with Chuck Missler. So he's kind of the Nephilim, Archons. Ross Skiba's another name that falls in there.
Okay.
But yeah, he's no relation, as far as I know, to Dan Quell of Potato. But yeah, he's one of those. He falls into the same. I wouldn't say he's as wacky as David Icke, but he's pretty damn close.
Yeah.
I used to know Ike's ex-wife.
Oh, good grief.
And she's just as wacky.
I found Obama.
Oh,
There's Obama, who's right across from George Soros, because of course he's got to be there. Let's see. We got Antifa, Chicago Mob, which is right above the Clinton Foundation and Benghazi. What else we got here? The Singularity. There's a bunch of.
But yeah, I mean, does somebody like QAnon or somebody associated with QAnon, to them, this is this
Shelley,
is normal.
I found Nibiru.
Oh, you found Nibiru?
Yes, hang on. Let me share and I'll point to where it is. I found Nibiru. All right, Shelley, if you go down in the very bottom left-hand corner, there's the Mandela Effect, Akashic Records, and right under that is Nibiru. And it's right next to Pole Shift and the Antichrist. Because, of course, that's where you would hide, a rogue planet is next to the Antichrist. Oh, and next to the 2012 Mayan calendar, too.
Oh, good Lord. I mean, this has got to be every fucking...
right above the age of Aquarius. My God.
It looks like this guy has mapped every conspiracy theory that I'm aware of anyways.
Everything you could think of.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but is he saying this is everything QAnon believes, so to speak?
Well, again, it's probably what his followers have linked to.
Okay.
Because it's hard to say what the real original, the first QAnon might have been thinking. He may be a real. I mean, it might have been real, but
this is from the article. It says the crux of QAnon is that a vast secret parallel history of the world has unfolded over the centuries, with powerful families and religious interests shaping events around them to maximize profit, quell dissent, and increase their power over the witless sheep under them. Hello, read a history book. Yes. That's all of world history right there. Why is this a surprise? It just says it involves everyone, has its hooks in everything, and is everywhere. Well, yes, but that's not a conspiracy. That's just the way shit works, which doesn't mean that it should be that way, but historically, it has always been powerful families and religious freaks trying to take over everything and keep dissent to a minimum. That's the history of every civilization will have that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what. So it just says, of course, none of that is new to the world of conspiracy theory. Well, no, it's not a conspiracy theory. But anyway, it says long before Q came along, hysteria over the Illuminati, Freemasons, Jews, lizard people, or Catholics controlling the world ran rampant. But the Catholics actually did that for a long time. The beauty of it is of Q is that all of that is true, with eons of mental slavery being thrown off only now by Q followers and the actions of President Trump. And the stakes couldn't be higher, as the Deep State Mapping Project puts it. This is actually a multi-dimensional war between good and evil that spans the galaxy. Our planet is breaking free from an ancient quarantine imposed on it by archons hostile to humanity. Oh my.
Well, yeah, and that's what I read earlier, but it didn't click that he answered it right in that statement.
Yep. So with so many entities and government plots and people to keep track of, it's only natural that a kind of Uber chart would emerge. Why is that natural? Anyway, would emerge, trying to link it all together. After all, charts are a favorite of the conspiracy community, and the more items connected in more arcane ways, the better. So, and it says, a map has emerged out of the mist, trying to connect all the dots. One, quote, unlocked by the, quote, news that Q drops. The first Q reference to News Unlocks map seems to have come on November 24th, though with anonymous posting, it's hard to know for sure. And the map emerged on the exact same day. Put together by Dylan Lewis Monroe, bracket, who appears to also run the site Deep State Mapping Project, is a massive tome full of small print arrow circles and multiple different keys to help decode it. I present it to you. So that's basically what he's saying, is that everything's connected, and this, I don't know, it just seems like a non-issue to me. Like, this is, if anybody's ever cracked more than one history book, this is like a no-brainer to me. I don't know. But it just seems sort of anticlimactic. Like, I just want to go, well, duh.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff on here. I mean the Freemasons,
Well, the thing is, so powerful families have always historically tried to maintain control. But in the modern era, like I would say from the early 20th century on, that has been less and less possible because society is changing. And especially after the Russian Revolution and the French Revolution, and that fundamentally changed. So while there's still a good amount of that going on in certain degrees, there's no way it's going to raise to the level of the type of conspiracies that these people are putting forth in the modern era. And in the historical era, vast, intricate conspiracies like this weren't necessary, because somebody like the Medici family would just pummel your ass with an army and be like, bitch, you're mine, and that's it. Like, there was no need to be subversive. You would just go and take what you wanted if you had the power to do so. So to me, while what he said about society and the fact that, the wealthy and the religious try to maintain that power at the expense of average people is true, the machinations that these people are putting forth to claim how it happens is ridiculous. Does that make sense?
A little bit, yeah.
I've left Mike speechless.
You know what just dawned on me?
What?
I now have the itch to get him back into a conspiracy series.
Uh-oh. What have I done?
And it's really funny because I was thinking about it the other day when I found my notebooks. And I probably have a total of 12. Handwritten. Both sides.
Wow.
Okay. 4 of them are just on one person.
Oh, damn.
Okay. I was dissecting his book, literally. And I'm like, I was looking at him and I was just amazed at the amount of effort that I put in just to debunk this one person. And I'm thinking, anybody that does this, quote, full time. I mean, I luckily had a job when I worked at the gas station. I worked 10-hour shifts of basically standing there staring when I didn't have customers. So I had a lot of time to listen to podcasts and take notes. Yeah.
Oh, this is funny because with Triss asking about JFK in the article here, Buddy's talking about, different ways that he looked at the map and to decode it and all of this, and he goes, so what made sense about the Kennedy assassination? What made sense about 9/11 attacks? What made sense about terrible war in Syria? Nothing much at all. So rather than simply throw our hands up, we try to force it to make sense. We connect it to other things. John F. Kennedy wasn't supposed to be assassinated by a schmo in a book depository. So we do what, quote, the map does, make it part of something bigger. In this case, connecting it to former CIA head Alan Dulles, to a CIA operation called Mockingbird, to, quote, media monopolies, all the way to today's epidemic of fake news. Hell, even Kennedy's son's death is connected to it. And then there's a quote that says, mind-blowing theory, JFK Jr. is still alive and part of the Q team. This could explain Q's passion for JFK Sr. Hashtag WWG1WGA, which I don't know what that means. Hashtag QAnon, hashtag the storm. And then there's a link to a picture at Twitter. And it's quoted by Liz, "These people are sick." And that was from April of 2018. Jesus. So JFK is alive and working for the Q team. Gotcha.
Okay.
I wonder if Elvis works there too. Because, Elvis wanted to be like a law enforcement, right? He was all into that stuff. Because he got like some kind of special badge from Nixon and was all happy about it. So if anybody was going to fake their own death and get involved in some shit, that would be Elvis.
Yeah.
Wow,
But according to the Men in Black, he went home. So
right. That's true.
I'm not even going to ask.
Well, Elvis was big into karate, so, he could have been brushing up for his secret Q position,
I just...
and they named John Delancey's character Q specifically to shed light on and prophesied that in the 2000s Q would come along and enlighten the masses. That's what that was. Yep.
When I think not just about Q, but just conspiracy theory in general. Now, I make no qualms about being, with my mental illness, with bipolar. I've had psychotic episodes where I thought I could fly, and I was going to test that theory. But I don't think anytime at my worst, I had delusions of grandeur. I thought I was the world's greatest writer. But I don't think I ever even remotely thought about crazy shit like this.
That's good.
I mean,
it's like having an issue like that and believing that you can fly seems kind of normal. You know what I mean? In terms of mental illness, that's sort of normal. This shit,
it makes me wonder, because one of the biggest talking points concerning mental illness and those that commit heinous crimes, like Andrea Yates, for example,
Right.
who was diagnosed after killing her kids that she was bipolar. In no time, at my worst, did I ever think about harming another person. Now,
Right.
myself is a whole nother ballgame. But it's a discussion on did religion, or in this case, ancient aliens, throw in, whatever conspiracy crazy shit you want. Did any of that ever, like, even though I was very religious prior, I mean, I came out at about the same time I was diagnosed with bipolar. I never once even remotely attached religion to my illness. I mean,
Mhm.
During the time when I was undiagnosed, I was easily manipulated into thinking, it was demons, I had to be exorcised and all that crap. But, and I know people that are schizophrenic, and
Mhm.
this is just beyond my comprehension.
Yeah.
How can somebody who's most likely not mentally ill go so far into these nutball ideas?
That's, yeah. Well, actually, here's something that the guy in the article says, carrying on actually from the quote about JFK Jr. being part of Q. Says it makes us feel saner to see things as connected rather than random occurrences that could happen to anyone. Are they actually connected? I doubt it, at least not in any appreciable way. But if they're not connected, then Kennedy died at random for nothing. If they are, then he died as part of a much grander struggle, one being fought right now over the future of the world. And it also goes, I know we were talking about how it's a similar mindset to religious fundamentalism, and I see that too. And I've often said that people who are hardcore into conspiracy stuff, what they also get out of it is this sense of specialness.
Yeah.
That I'm smart enough to see through the crap I'm supposed to see and see the truth. And so, I can feel extra good about myself because I'm special in that way. And that's very similar to how a very religious person feels, is like, I'm special enough that God chose me, or I'm special enough that I understand how to choose the right God and follow the quote right religion. Mm-hmm. And so I can feel better about myself because of that. And I think that plays into it as well.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping that's where you're going to go with, because that's the standard response that I get to that question, is that it's because it's trying to make sense out of an order, like you said with the JFK assassination, that, that's the way the cookie crumbles, Yeah. I mean, there's no specialness behind his assassination, and which, to most people, I mean, his assassination doesn't make sense.
And if you think in terms of not even something on a global scale like that, but I've always said that one of the biggest hooks that religion has is the whole death thing, either fear of your own death or dealing with the death of someone else that you care for. So if you've had, say, a parent or a spouse or somebody who you're very close to die, and especially in ways like they've caught an illness, or they were in an accident, or some creep just killed them, you think Like, that's why we get that, oh, they're in a better place, or God wanted to call them home. Like, people seem to get desperate to need a reason. And maybe I'm just weird. I've never had that need.
See, I've never had it either. That's really bizarre, because to me, you born, you live, you die. That's part of
and I don't know.
Even as a believer, I was like that. Like, even when my girlfriend, even when my girlfriend was killed, what devastated me more was at her funeral when one of the people said that I had no right to be there and I had no right to grieve because I was gay at the time, and I wasn't an atheist for another 9 years after that, so that was nothing to do with it.
Because obviously that need is way more common, because virtually, a lot of people have that need to make sense out of those things. That's why I say maybe I'm just weird, because that never could. It could also be like I was raised on a farm where stuff died all the time. Like, animals died, it wasn't every day, but it was certainly a regular occurrence. We had, farm animals. We had, things like when my mom accidentally ran over a snake in the grass mowing the lawn, stuff like that. Or you might find a roadkill, just death was just, it happens.
Yeah. Well, I think for me too, I was exposed to death very, very early. I was 5 years old when I went to my first funeral. Most people I know were in their teens before they even saw a dead body. I mean, I was 10 years old and my grandmother died in the bed I eventually slept in 10 years later.
Yikes.
She was 94 years old.
Now, I knew 2 of my great grandmothers, and the second one died, I might have been 10. No, I wasn't even that. I think I was maybe about 7. And so, like, I remember that. I remember my first great grandmother who died. I was like maybe 4. I remember being at the funeral home, and like somebody, I think it was my dad, maybe, that showed me great grandma in the coffin, and like people had said, she's passed away, blah blah blah. And I don't think I really quite understood it for a while, but I had seen it. And then eventually, between, my other great grandma passing away, and then farm life where sometimes animals die, we had pigs and beef cattle, and I learned after a while that where those guys were going, they got shipped off to market. That didn't mean that they were gonna go buy some new hay. That meant they were getting eaten. So, you learn that kind of stuff. It's just never been something that, like, my first like really, I would say, call it important death, was my grandmother, who passed away when I was 1990, so I would have been like 19 or 20, and that was the first person close to me that I lost. So that was quite a ways later. And yeah, it was devastating. She died very suddenly of a heart attack, and she was only 67. And it was devastating, but I never ever went, well, what was the sense of that happening? It was like, well, people die.
Yeah, I wonder sometimes if there's a connection to that type of thinking, to the attachment to conspiracy like thinking.
Yeah.
And just trying to make sense of it. I mean, I emotionally, I'm very cold. I mean, I can be like after my mom died 5 years ago, I was like, okay, mom's dead. Picked up, just, where.
And it's not like you didn't care for her. It was that there's nothing you could do about it. She was 90 some years old. She'd been ill many times. She was no longer suffering. There were many things. And you weren't, even though you cared for her, you weren't exceptionally close.
No.
It wasn't like she was a daily part of your life. So there were many factors in there that would make it unlikely that you would be super devastated by it.
Yeah, and I wonder if that type of thinking really plays a part in when people apparently accept these alternative realities as being accurate. I mean, is it possible that 9/11 was an inside job or Sandy Hook didn't really happen? No, I think my friend would tell me it is pretty straight-laced, and losing her son, in the shooting was not made up in her mind.
Exactly. Just quickly. Good night, Shelley. Thank you for joining us.
Bye, Shelley.
Shelley's going to bed. We're almost done, but we were a little late starting. What the other thing that was just occurring to me too is because with the conspiracy stuff, it's not so much loss and death that are people are dealing with. It's things like poverty and loss of opportunity and overall struggling. And then there's such a huge focus on the pedophile thing because people are outraged by children being victimized, and they're helpless because they can't do anything about it directly for the most part. And so again, like for me, because as I've talked about many times, I'm a survivor of child abuse. But yet for me, my brain wasn't like, I need to figure out a reason why this happened. Well, sorry, I did. But instead of looking around to random people around me that would come up with some kind of theory, I went to school to study psychology and sociology and learn what the experts said why that sort of thing happens. And maybe it was because I knew all along that it wasn't anything I did. So I had to look at, what was it about the abuser that made that happen? Like I never would have, it's part of a global conspiracy to make money off of children by, evil liberals. Like, why would I ever think that? Or it's like, well, somebody wanted to make money off me. Well, no, because it was my grandfather and they definitely did not make money off of it. So I don't know. But I see how that could tie in if, you say somebody was abused by a step parent or the boyfriend or girlfriend of a parent, that kind of thing. Then it's like, well, why did that happen? And it feels less, I would imagine, of a personal attack if you could say, well, it's part of this global conspiracy and you're being used as a pawn in this huge machination against the good of the universe kind of thing. I don't know. I'm obviously just speculating, but that does make some sense.
Yeah. It's definitely a mind fuck.
It is, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's something I've been trying to. That's something I've been trying to figure out. How does a person go from maybe a rational belief? I mean,
yeah.
When I was, when I did this, there's this podcast, the Unseen Podcast. I don't know if this episode went out because I think I was the only one. It was supposed to be a group of to talk science, And
Right.
Paul Carr was asking me about what if I had to believe in a conspiracy, what would I believe in? And I actually do. I would like the alien that there are aliens out there visiting us to be
Right.
true.
It's a sort of X-Files kind of thing.
Yeah, but because if you take a rational look at we got this huge universe. We're discovering new planets, exoplanets. So the probability is that there is other intelligent life out there.
Mhm.
It would make the most sense out of any other
Right.
conspiracy thing that's been floated, I think.
Right. And you can make a rational debate, and talk to people rationally about the existence or non-existence of space aliens.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's it almost seems like they, what happened. Well, there's a step where if I was to stick to believing in these aliens, and I keep getting things reinforced, and you're thinking correct, that, and if you find yourself within because I think again we find our way into groups that kind of support our personal beliefs. So it could have been very easily. I could have went from just just the rational belief in space aliens, but then you can get into the pseudoscience part,
Mm-hmm.
where where you kind of start ignoring the science, the whatever. And then if you keep going, then you get into this conspiracy world where, the government's hiding the existence, the Roswell aliens taken to Wright-Patterson for experimentation, whatever. You can get into, there's that component that seems to make sense, and it does kind of add up for me, because you could take a rational look at 9/11. Was there a something more to it than just a bunch of pissed off Saudi Arabians flying airplanes into buildings? Was there more to this? And you can actually make a pretty lot. When I talked about 9/11, the United States has done some pretty shitty stuff to the Middle East. Just so are we to expect these people to roll over and says, "Oh, no harm, no foul"? No, they're gonna retaliate in one way or another. And if it keeps going, then next thing you know, that's what you're gonna get is airplanes flying into buildings.
Yep.
But you can make you could take a rational look at some of these conspiracies. JFK. The real concern after the assassination was whether or not Cuba or Russia was involved, because that may have been a prelude to World War III, or some sort of action from these countries against the United States. The government took that seriously. That's part of why the Warren Commission pretty much dismissed, or was able to dismiss, because they investigated. Was Russia involved? Was Cuba involved? Unfortunately, the conspiracy minded got a hold of it and went their direction. But you could still you could probably make a rational debate on the possibility of Castro or Khrushchev or someone else. Assassinating the president. Granted, but of course the evidence you got to do that based on evidence, not on speculation or imagination. So that's what I'm trying to figure out, actually, is to is there tipping points, or is this just a natural progression? You start off, okay, there's something fishy about the JFK assassination, then you go into, well, you could if you read a couple books, okay, that makes sense. And then you find yourself then believing that, Lyndon Johnson was set up the assassination or something like that. You can go then into the fake stuff. So that's what I'm kind of wondering about. So if it's, what is that? Is there certain tipping points? Are our psychology or some how our brains are wired, how that would make, if there's a connection there, because there are, I mean, if you ever listen to like the Skeptic's Guide to the Galaxy and all that stuff, or the universe, and because they're talking about pareidolia and all these different mind tricks. So are we just being tricked in, are these people being just tricked? Because they're, again, one of the, what I forget what the pattern, I think that's pareidolia, where the
pareidolia. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Because the connections that we need to make these connections to make the to be able to see, or I mean, it's more of an offset of our instincts. I mean, that, making up or seeing patterns where they don't really exist could make the difference between, if that's back when we were on the lower end of the food chain, whether that was a friendly person or a tiger getting ready to eat us, that being able to detect those patterns gave us the ability to survive. Now, is it because the pareidolia is overactive? If it's modified by, something we eat or something, whatever the, if that, I haven't yet found anything on that side yet. So, but I'm, there's a lot of things that just, that could push a person into the conspiracy world if they, I'm not 100% convinced on one way or another. It's just, again,
even for some people, it might just be as simple as, hey, I really feel like I belong when I commiserate with people who see things, think the same way I do.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. We are a social animal by nature. And then we are a pattern-seeking animal by nature. So, we're going to gravitate towards, patterns. We're going to gravitate towards other people that think along the same lines as us. But when you have a view that might be speculative, if you don't have the critical thinking skills to look at a situation rationally, you're going to lean towards the irrational.
Yeah.
I mean, I know for years, I was a young Earth creationist for years. And then I actually, it was my senior year in high school, I wrote a paper on creationism versus evolution, and guess what I believed in by the time I was done?
Evolution.
Yeah, my teacher was like, I was really surprised. I said, well, I was supposed to be for create, but I said, I looked at the evidence, and it just didn't make any sense anymore.
Yep.
So, and I was lucky. I went to a very good high school, so, I learned, I learned the quote basics.
And you had good resources and whatnot.
Yeah, where I think some people shy away from those resources. I have a tendency to embrace them.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna read the last couple paragraphs from this article because it does sort of sum things up rather nicely, I think. It says, much of QAnon is a batshit crazy conspiracy theory, deeply rooted in anti-Semitism, poor critical thinking skills and an unreasonable hatred of Hillary Clinton. But it's caught on for a reason. And while it's easy to dismiss that reason as, quote, people are crazy, it's more compassionate to try and look at why people believe while still acknowledging that it is indeed a batshit crazy conspiracy theory. So there you go.
It's pretty much what we said, but shorter.
It is. It is. But that's okay. Short and to the point. Well, I think that about does it for this evening. So, Mike, thank you so much for joining us at short notice. We appreciate it. Please tell everybody where to find you and your show and all the stuff that you do.
Well, it's a Skeptic's Guide to Conspiracy. You can find me on iTunes or at mikebohler.com, MikeBohler.com. I think I'm on a few other podcatchers, so you should be able to find it. That's pretty much me.
Awesome.
And the link to mikebohler.com and to A Skeptic's Guide to the Conspiracy is in the show. Show description.
The description. You could just, if you're watching this video, just scroll down a little bit and clicky, and you'll find Mike.
Yeah.
So awesome. And Beth, where can we find you?
Easiest way is on Twitter, Dune998. That connects to my blog. I don't know if it connects to YouTube or not, but I'm also on YouTube under Beth A. Hambridge, and I have put out a video. Believe it or not, I finally got one done. It's been 4 years, and I have 2 more in the works that I'm working on. Research is a little slow. And then you can find me on Facebook under Beth A. Hambridge as well. And if you go to Havoc and Chaos, that's my blog where I post about abuses in the church, primarily pedophile priests that have actually been charged. I don't follow the civil. Well, I do follow them, but I don't post about civil cases unless there's something big, like Cardinal Powell.
Yes.
There's just too many of them. But yeah, primarily anything dealing with church abuse, whether it's diddling children or, some secretary stealing $350,000, shit like that. But that's the easiest way. And if you send me a friend request, put show related so I know it's something to do with the show, or I most likely will ignore you. Or send another one and say, hey, asshole. I listen to.
Awesome. All right. Well, and so you can also find me on Holy Crap, the vlogcast, which airs Sunday mornings at 12:05 a.m. And you can find that at holycrapthevlogcast.com or look up Holy Crap on YouTube. And we will be there. We, of course, will be here next week, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And this time, barring any unforeseen issues, we will be talking to a fellow named Jeremy Montanez, who is a former Trump supporter who now regrets having done so and is very adamant that Trump is not who he thought he was. And so we'll talk to him about how do you get to be a Trump supporter in the first place, and what happened to change his mind, and talk about his experiences since he's changed his mind, because as you can imagine, his former fellow Trump supporters were none too happy about his change of heart. So we will be talking to Jeremy Montanez next week, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So I think that about does it for this week. And until then, we will see you, and enjoy the Humanist Creed. We'll see you then.
I know the truth and power of reason and of rational thinking, and I will use them to my advantage. I know the truth and power of educating myself and of expanding my intellectual boundaries, and I will educate myself. I know the truth and power of vanquishing ignorance, and I will do so whenever the opportunity presents itself. I know the truth and power of morality without supervision, and of true and accurate righteousness. I know the truth and power of obliterating tyranny, be it intellectual, emotional, or philosophical, and will work toward that goal whenever and however possible. I know the truth and power of human ingenuity. I know the truth and power of human compassion, and I will be mindful of the welfare of others. I know the truth and power of equality and fairness for all living things. I know the truth and power of the importance of our families, our friends, and our fellow men and women. I know the truth and power of human stewardship of our lands, our waters, and our skies, and I will try to act to preserve our environment. I know the truth and power of the sciences of mathematics, of physics, and of chemistry, and of the important role of these disciplines in understanding the workings of this cosmos. I know the truth and power of the rejection of all notions or beliefs that reside in the supernatural or the superstitious, and of those notions or beliefs that we are not supposed to be able to explain. And I know that these rejections are necessary for humankind's survival. I am a human being with a free mind, liberated from irrational influence and from unreasonable dogma.